talking today about high blood pressure, which is something that might make you more beautiful on the inside if you don't have it. So, and normally when we talk on the inside, we're talking about balance, personality, spirituality. But today, we're talking about the inside of our bodies from the standpoint of high blood pressure. So now, I have not checked this particular statistic. So if someone refutes me, I apologize ahead of time. But I was at a fitness center today, and they had a replicated pound of fat that was made out of kind of rubber, sitting there on the table. And in the 1 pound of fat, the owner of the fitness center told me that 1 pound of fat has 1 mile of capillaries that your heart has to push through for 1 pound of fat. I lost 90 pounds. That means, according to him, if it's correct, my heart 90 pounds ago was having to pump 90 miles more of blood through my capillaries before it got back to my heart. 90 miles, that's just nuts. So, in my humble opinion, staying fit is not just looking good, it's also about keeping heart healthy. So in talking about high blood pressure, we are also joined by Dr. Lee, who is my co-host. I'm the co-host and she is the main host, and she has all of the degrees. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lee.
Well, thank you, Kurt. How are you today?
Doing well.
I think you're feeling good, healthy from inside out.
Huh? Hey, that's right. I actually lost about 5 pounds this week. So I have 5 miles less than my. Thank you. So the scale was very kind to me this morning, but also I was kind to my heart by giving it 5 miles less. If my theory holds true, if somebody wants to Google it and call us, you can call us to correct us if you'd like at 480-296-1776, and or even send an SMS text, and we can be able to know if my information is correct or not. But theoretically, I have 5 miles less of capillaries for my heart to pump through. And I actually have had a lowering in blood pressure over the last week. So, all right, so Dr. Lee is going to be talking about, this is actually our second show for those of you who are just tuning in, about high blood pressure or hypertension. So there's some more in-depth ideas, and we also have a guest who's going to be joining us at 3:30, who may even participate throughout. Who knows what we decide to do. It's going to be talking about how nutrition can help us out in getting lowering our blood pressure and keeping it under control. But go ahead.
So last show we've been talking about high blood pressure and the general knowledge about it. Today we want to focus on diet and hypertension. What do we do?
Perfect.
What do we do at home? Besides taking prescription medication and go and see your doctors, that things we can do within our control. Like you said, healthy living to help with our hypertension. High blood pressure affects 60 million Americans, so it's not a uncommon disease.
That's almost 1 in, let's say,
1 in 3, 1 in 4?
Yeah, 1 in 4.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even though the word or the diagnosis of the disease is one name, hypertension or high blood pressure, the causes are different among different people.
Mm.
So, we don't want to go into all the great details of physiology, of blood pressure regulation, but basically there's so many factors in the system to regulate the blood pressure. So everybody have different people having high blood pressure, maybe having different causes. So different medication or different strategies may work better for different individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But the focus today is on diet. The most famous diet, or something everybody's heard of, is sodium intake restriction, or low sodium diet, low salt diet, right?
Yeah.
We've all heard that.
I remember when I was 9 years old, my grandmother slapped my hand away. I was eating some grapefruit, which is, probably a pretty good thing for a 9-year-old to eat. And I actually self-chose grapefruit. I liked it, but I cut it in half, and I was getting ready to put salt on it, and she slapped my hand away and said, "You should not eat salt, Sonny."
That was how many years ago?
I was 9, so I don't want to
Few decades
disclose.
ago,
Yeah.
Right? So it's actually a very common knowledge. We know that salt can affect our blood pressure. And in last show we mentioned that historically, complete salt restriction, completely taking salt out, was one of the more primitive or original treatment for high blood pressure.
Right.
Are we still doing that?
Well, we still are, however, maybe we should be thinking twice.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, because it isn't just the salt that increases or doesn't decrease your blood
That's
pressure.
right. That's only one factor.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did some reviewing of the research compiled up. Limiting salt in intake, in the food intake, will have a mild effect on blood pressure control. So it's not gonna do it all, even
Right.
if you don't take any salt at all. But if you take too much salt, I guess it could be a contributing factor to higher blood pressure. Mostly, it's affecting the upper number, the systolic blood pressure.
I see.
Yeah, it affects the lower one, of diastolic pressure, less. And also there's controversies exist that there's debate on restricting dietary sodium is actually can be bad for you. So going back to our stand, balance, it's always in moderation. There's a normal range of dietary salt we should be taking. You know,
And also, just to do a personal insert, I drink about a gallon of water a day. I work out, really hard in the morning.
absolutely, you
and
lose it.
So I lose it, and I began to realize, because I've never put salt on anything, but and believe me, there's plenty of salt coming in from the normal stuff that I eat, because I've eaten processed foods. But now I'm cutting out processed foods. I realize I need to put salt back in my diet, or I'm going to be washing out those electrolytes with a gallon of water every day.
Actually, if you're taking whole foods or not very processed food,
Mm-hmm.
you would have a pretty good range. That
So it's
range
natural
we're
sodium?
trying, yes.
Oh, that's good
Actually,
to know.
in
I can
food,
be less stressed about that.
you have, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you lose excessive amount of sweat,
Mhm.
electrolytes through exercise, that may be a little different. But
And I do, and when I work out,
Well,
this
yeah,
is,
then-
again, TMI, but I mean, my sweat line is all the way down below my belly
Yeah.
button, so, I work out
Yeah,
hard.
amazingly, but if you
Mhm.
if you take fruit juice, even though that has more potassium than sodium in it, it actually has some sodium too.
Okay, that's
So
good to know.
food has sodium in it naturally,
Mhm.
even if you don't add any salt. But to not have any salt at all may be detrimental or harmful for certain individuals, like elderly people,
Mhm.
like athletes who exercise a lot.
Mhm.
So these are just a few examples.
That makes
So,
sense.
to understand what, last show we talked about a lot of basic knowledge on high blood pressure, but I think there's one thing I thought it was very important to bring up here regarding to the regulation of blood pressure. With the short-term regulation, like when you get angry or when you're bleeding, losing blood, your body tries to compensate, to change, either lower or increase your blood pressure to maintain the good perfusion of the brain or the vital organs.
Mhm.
That regulation is called short-term regulation. That's usually more related to your heart, how heart contracts. It's called contractility.
Okay.
Your heart rate and how much the little muscles work on the blood vessels to change the resistancy or the pressure of the vessel. But in the long-term aspect, when the blood pressure is too high or too low,
Mhm.
the regulation usually happens to the blood volume.
Mm.
And that is...
That's where you need salt to retain?
Well, salt is a factor here, yeah. But other things are a factor too, water,
Mhm.
fluids.
Mhm.
So that is mostly through something called renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system that involves primarily in kidney.
Mm.
Kidneys, there are special kidney cells. It can sense the blood flow or blood pressure. When it's too high or too low, will release chemicals or hormones
Okay.
that will trigger the cascade of command in the body to retain more fluids, retain more water, reabsorb more water, and all the steps. So actually a lot of high blood pressure people who has hypertension, they actually have less fluids in their body because of that system working.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Yes.
And they actually need more? Or
Well,
not?
no,
Okay.
they don't, because otherwise their blood pressure would be higher.
Right.
The body's already getting rid of the water to make it less.
And at that point is where I guess I can understand that, I mean, everybody's a little bit different in each situation, but because if you have a membrane on one side and you put salt in that membrane, it'll actually suck water from the neighboring membrane
Right.
and pull it in.
It's
So.
osmolarity.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you. She knows the official term.
The high school chemistry, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Osmosis. That's
right.
Mm-hmm.
So salt is a big factor. So why don't we welcome our guest
Absolutely.
to join us when we come back? We'll talk about more of the diet relating to high blood pressure treatment and what kind of foods are good for controlling hypertension,
Mhm.
and what we can do at the kitchen and choose the right food, change our lifestyles. So if you have any questions, you can always come to our website or go to my email. That is tongli.md@gmail.com. Don't go too far away. We'll be back.
When we come back, we're going to be talking about how to keep things palatable, which means tasting good, and it will be good for your heart and your blood pressure. So don't go away. We'll be right back after the break.